you have not become a patron of the Geocache Talk Network, what are you waiting for? Patron levels start as low as a Bison Tube level at $3 a month. To sign up is easy. Simply go to the Geocache Talk website and click on the Become a Patron button, or go to patreon.com/Geocache Talk. Patrons now get the famous Blackout coin, invites to special events, and other really great items throughout the year. Become a patron today. Have you subscribed to FTF Magazine yet? FTF Magazine is the #1 geocaching magazine available. It is a quarterly magazine that you can be part of. Submit your geocaching milestones and adventures to be published. FTF Magazine is also interactive with puzzles to solve and the hunt to find Spartacus. If you can solve the puzzle or find Spartacus, then you will be entered in to win a special pack tag. Every new subscription, you will receive a special swag pack. Subscribing is easy. Just visit FTF's website, ftfgeo.com. Don't miss out and subscribe today.
Welcome to Deep Dive, where we dive deep into geocaching topics. Each episode features in-depth discussions and aims to provide a deeper understanding and appreciation of geocaching and to inspire listeners to explore new aspects of our great sport. And I'd like to welcome tonight, of course, my co-host. There's Jesse.
Me.
Yes. And our guest tonight, Mark Webb. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. We go back a few years, and we're going to be discussing such tonight. So, yep. Hashtag for tonight is Mark. Hashtag Mark for anyone who wants to win. I'm gonna get the giveaway tool now, Jesse, before I forget.
That's right.
Everybody to do it twice. So
it's so professional when we have to do that. I have to
I know
we episode. Yeah.
We sound we act like we're so professional when we have to do it twice. So
we should be professional. We get paid so much for this. You know.
I didn't.
No, we don't.
No, I don't know. You're making money I didn't know about. So
I was waiting on those checks from you. I figured they were just late.
Yeah, exactly. We do appreciate, and we do need everybody to do hashtag Mark again. For some reason it's not picking up. I'm doing it again. Hashtag Mark. There's the doggy. There we go. Now it's working. Okay. It's a good puppy dog. I heard there.
Yeah. Sadly, he's like rooms away too. So
yeah, he's right there.
He's just big.
So double. You're right, Ryan. I will double it tonight. So
yeah, I'm getting paid twice as much as the reviewers get paid. So
yeah, exactly.
Zero, but it works.
Yeah. But saying that though, we do appreciate all our patrons who do pay.
Oh gosh, yes.
The bills. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, there's no way we could afford to keep this show running and doing all those things without the patrons. I mean,
no.
I would be thrown out of my house if I paid that money. So
yeah. We'll get a bill and I'll go, whoa, yo. I was like, wow, whoa. But I was like, good thing is we've got people that have been a part of it and help us get it going. So, all right. So I want to do a quick. We don't normally do news, but I want to do one news item. Then we're gonna get right into the show. So trust me, I'm not gonna go crazy with news tonight because we don't do that on this show. Cache Fest Oklahoma. We are a sponsor of Cache Fest Oklahoma. GTN is a proud sponsor, and we are really excited about next year. We are working toward a magic number. I won't tell everybody why, but it's really important that an event gets to 300 will attends, and then magic happens at that time. So help us create magic by helping us get to 300 will attends. If you're and will attend is not really a good, I think it's a misnomer. I think it should be called might attend, because if you might, well, if you're a will, that's an easy one. But if you're a maybe attend, consider the will attend button also a maybe or might attend, because if you might attend or maybe attend, but you'd like to keep up with what's going on, you can't get updates
Right.
without a will attend, even though if you're not you're an unsure attend. So
But there's reasons for that too. One, we're not soliciting people. If you're not going to go and you're not going to be anywhere in the country, don't put it on there. We don't want. This is not the ones. We're not asking for your dog to put a will attend on there. We don't want the bogus ones, right? But the reason why, the difference between a regular event and a mega event, and I'm not just in general for people to know, is how HQ helps get the word out. So for people from other countries and things like that, a local event, which, the small events start off as, is different in how it goes out than a mega event and how people know. So for planning purposes, for people, that's why they let you do it, a year out. And so that you can spread the word to the whole world, as opposed to a local event, which doesn't really get spread. So for people to find out about some of these mega events, it's different. That's why mega events are so keen on having that mega status, so more people can know about it and people can make their travel plans from around the world. It's not just because it's like, oh, cool, we get a different icon. So there's other reasons for that as well. So, and we may need to go into that one day, the difference in a mega status, what mega status actually means besides getting people different icons. Maybe we need to get into that so people, because unless you've really hosted them or been part of the volunteer squad, you don't see a lot of the stuff from behind the scenes and why things are done in such weird ways. So, but that's not for tonight. But
no, that's good.
There's a lot of things that I didn't know about it either until we started messing around and helping people host them. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is fascinating. Speaking of one of the events that Jesse is unsure that actually occurred.
Oh gosh,
which was
conspiracy stuff.
Which had to get 3,000 will attends, which it did, which was very excited. See, the good puppy dog was excited too about it, which was Gigastock, which was in Cincinnati. And I asked Mark before the show, I was like, we took a photo, didn't we? He goes, oh yeah, I got a copy. So I got a copy of us, and we figured out it was 2018, right, Mark? Is that what we?
Yep. May of 2018.
Cool. 2018. So here we are. I haven't aged a bit, but you've gotten older. So there we are. The two of us in Cincinnati at Gigastock. So what was, let's talk about that and then we'll go backward. So what was what's your memories of Gigastock?
Sure. So Cincinnati Woodstock, I think, was my third Woodstock. My first one was in Sellersburg. After that, Boonesboro, and then into Cincinnati. So that was always a weird time frame with just like school events and graduations and weddings, and like all the things seemed to happen right at the end of May. So didn't get to as many Woodstocks as I would have liked to. But being in Cincinnati, and I'm from West Virginia, it was only like, a 5-6 hour drive. Comparatively, that's pretty good. So to be that high concentration of such like high level cachers, it was a who's who of everyone in the geocaching community. Like Josh Blogger was there. So Zach from South Dakota was there. You were there. It was just a great collection to see, like all these people that you kind of recognize from online and the great stuff that everyone does in their own respective communities. It was cool to kind of pull all these people together into this one space.
Yeah. Hodag's mentioned we called it Gigastock. It was Geo Woodstock. Geo Woodstock went Giga that year in Cincinnati, so we affectionately call it Gigastock, in case you're wondering. But yeah. So how old would you have been for that event? Do you remember? Oh, you can
make me do math here.
I know you gotta do math.
I think I was 16. 15, 16, somewhere in that range. It was like my sophomore year of high school.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, for one of the things we're going to do tonight. Oh yeah, Killer B's along. He's West Virginia. He's West Virginia, isn't he?
He was until he abandoned us and went to Texas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. How funny. Yeah, that's right. He's down where I'm at almost. But yeah, come see me, buddy. We'll do some caching together. Yeah. So, and Jesse's perfect also for this. We're going to talk about our kids a little bit as well, because we all have sort of interesting experiences with the different ages. Oh yeah, he's acting like he's sad now. I don't know how that's a possibility, but anyway. Yeah, he's east of Houston. Wow, if you're east of Houston, you're almost in Louisiana. Dang. So let's back up. So what was your first geocaching experience? How old were you? And if you can kind of think back on, was it a good one? Because like Jesse's wasn't good.
It was lame. My first one was lame.
Jesse's was lame. So how was your first experience?
Sure. So I found out about geocaching through my mom. She was scrolling through the Parks and Rec site for the county, just kind of looking
Right.
for like youth groups, club sports, different things like that. At the time, my brother was super involved in like baseball, basketball, soccer. Like he did all the things, and I didn't really do all the things. So just looking for anything to kind of get involved. And she kind of recognized geocaching from something that my uncle has mentioned in passing that he did it, from time to time. So she made an account, kind of looked into it, and we noticed that there was a geocache at the ballpark that my brother like played at. It felt like every day. We were there every night. So
Live there.
it was kind of a case of like, this hidden thing has been under our nose this whole time, and like we've never experienced it before. Like we've never noticed it. How did we not know this like hidden treasure was right in our community park? So
right.
That afternoon, like this was in 2009, so I was 8 years old. My mom like printed out the cache pages, because that was the day where you had to actually like print your notes.
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
We didn't have a GPS. All we had was a compass from Boy Scouts, and it was a multi. Yeah,
old school, man.
So it was a multi where you had to go to a coal mining memorial and like count different things around the memorial, and then that gave you coordinates to the final. And I still don't know how the heck we were able to figure this out, but there was a chain link fence that kind of wrapped around the perimeter of the park, and it was a fence cap that you kind of pulled off, and the cache was underneath that. So yeah, I would say from that moment on, it was pretty much hook, line, sinker. I mean, it was a pretty good first experience. From there, we kind of went to other local parks and things, still without a GPS, and just kind of wandered around enough until we stumbled across just using the clues and the maps and kind of what we had. And then we got, borrowed GPSs from different friends, see if we would like it, that sort of thing. And it just kind of snowballed until we got our own. And yeah, rest is history.
That's incredible.
And you were how old at this time?
I was 8. It was July of 2009.
But
what's that?
Mark is slightly younger than us. I don't know if y'all can tell that by looking at us, but we'll go ahead and put the spoiler in now. Mark's slightly younger than us. So 8 years old. That's pretty cool. That's a cool, like, obviously it wasn't around when we were 8 years old. So it's our kids were, but so you're that new next generation that's coming in and can grow up the whole time with it. That's pretty cool.
Right. I've been playing for 13 years now. So I've been playing geocaching for more years than I've not been playing geocaching.
That's crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really
by 5
cool.
years. I mean, I crossed that bridge a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mark's 21 now. Very cool. And let people know what you're currently doing.
Sure. So I just graduated college at West Virginia University with my undergrad in advertising and public relations. I work full-time for the university as a social media specialist, doing a lot of photo, video, graphic content. So every day I get to speak to 151,000 mountaineers, which is definitely a cool thing to kind of like interact with these people from all across the globe that kind of have this connection to Appalachia and the pride for West Virginia. So right now I'm in grad school getting my master's degree in marketing, and then see where life takes me after that.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah. So 13 years. I mean, that's a significant amount of time, but an interesting time. So during those 13 years, do you? I mean, we all go through our during those 13 years in our sport. We've all kind of had sort of ups and downs. I'm trying to think how I started in 06, so whatever that is, 17 years,
16, 17, depending on if
yeah,
you've
right
crossed.
there. There was life got in the way for us. I was fortunate enough to know that there was a couple of years, or there was 1 year where I at least found a cache that year, and so I kept the streak going. But how do you feel like when you look back over those 13 years? Were you always gung ho about the sport, or were you kind of? How did that kind of go? Do you think over those years?
Sure. So for the first about decade, for first 8 or 9 years, I didn't have the ability to drive. So I was really relying on my parents, my grandparents, neighbors, friends, literally anyone who would take me. I didn't care where we were going or what we were going to go find. Like, I just wanted to be out. I just wanted to go caching. So, it started. Yeah, the first year was all like, my family went out together and we had a lot of caches close, but then we had to keep going to the neighboring towns and the hikes got longer and the caches got a little harder to find. So at that point, it was just like my dad and I for a few years, and occasionally my brother would come along, and my neighbors at the time were really, really into it. So we would all kind of go on road trips and do like geo trails and coin trails and this, that, and the other. But you can definitely tell on my stat page, if you go to look at my fines per year, it's all level, and then you can see I get my driver's license, and then it just it's
and
it's
then off he goes
at that point. Yeah, so 2016 up is just insane. I would say
awesome.
The first few years I did 100 caches ish per year, and then now my goal is just to find one more than I did last year. So it's 2,000 a year.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely tough being where I'm at in West Virginia because there's mountains everywhere, and a 2-mile or if a cache is 2 miles away, that's an hour drive down the road because you have to go all the way around the mountain. So yeah, it's definitely tricky to kind of pick up some of these caches. And once you've cached out your area, you have to go to other places and different things like that. So it definitely gets harder the longer you play, but I've just been really fortunate to meet some really great people and go on good adventures with friends and the different community members. So
very cool. I have found the solution to that is just move across the country. I've done it a couple times so far. It works out great. It's funny how many caches are around you again.
Yeah, I mean that's it can happen, but yeah, he's making it happen, like you said, where you are now, which is great. But yeah, that's funny.
I've never even considered that obstacle, right? Not having a driver's license. That never entered my mind for things that would stop me from geocaching. Not having a driver's license is never one of the ones I even thought of.
Yep. It's a big one. It hurts a lot.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Mark says he's a great passenger. So I guess you're, like you said, if you can bum her back before the days of having your driver's license, you'd bum a ride. Hey, I'll go with you. We're going caching. Don't forget me, man. Don't forget me.
Right. Yeah. Kevin and I went on a lot of great adventures. We went all the way up to Erie, Pennsylvania, and got Pennsylvania's oldest together. That was one of our last road trips kind of before he moved down south. So yeah. Whoever was going caching, I wanted the invite.
Yeah. It's interesting. We even, what's interesting is that, like you said, your experiences in many ways are very similar, for all ages. Your memory of, like I mentioned about Kevin, is that Killer B, right? Kevin? It's Kevin. Yeah. Was that the trip is memorable because of who was with you and what you went to do. We talk about that. We talk about it all the time. It's like we don't, for the most part, except for the crazies out there that, well, not crazy, but the weirdly numbered is just like what number geocache was that? We don't care. I mean, we it was somewhere, unless it was a specific number, like, oh, that was our 2000th. Yeah. But if it's not, it's more about the experience. Hey, we went and did this cache together and it was a great time. Right. So, I mean, I think that transcends, age in many ways. But interesting that you kind of kept sort of a consistent experience even over the years. I know my kids have very different experience. The fact that, I mean, once they were sort of, out of the house and such, is that, one doesn't do it at all. One does it occasionally. When I mentioned to him, hey, you're in Hawaii, you find a cache. Oh yeah, I need to go find one. Yeah. And the other one does it more on his own. So like Jesse, Hallie will do it. Well, both the girls will do it with y'all. They don't.
Oh yeah, it's a normal part of life for us. Like when you were little and you get your parents to take us or whatever. Well, I guess I can't say my kids are little. One of them's older than you, but one of them's 23 and one of them's 16. So they for the last, since 2009, we've been caching since 2009, and they've been along for that journey the whole time. So they were little bitty and they've grown up, and they'll go with us now. And both of them were taught to drive by going geocaching. I'm like, take me to another one. And so they've done whole things. They've both hosted their own events and had their own trackables and everything over the year. But for us, and they have their own accounts, their own separate accounts technically, but they generally only log something like if we go to a new state together, they'll go and log that one cache. Other than that, it's just a family account. So they're cachers, and they've been caching for longer than a lot of people, but they're it's a family activity for us instead of an individual activity. So it's a little bit different, but and one of the questions I want to ask you, and I'll lead it by setting it up with them. So when they were little, we'd go caching, and then when their friends would come over, like when they're young, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old or whatever, their friends would come over and spend the night or whatever. And that was just part of our weekend. So we didn't even think twice about it. The kids would come with us. And of course it was brand new to this other kid. But I always kind of, and I'll ask you this question too, but I always kind of thought about like how, because it wasn't around when I was a kid, how do you talk about this game to other kids? Like when you're young, like when you were a 9-year-old cacher, were you like, hey bud, let's, buddy from the playground, let me tell you about this activity we do with my family. Did you ever like kind of talk to other kids about it, or how did that go?
Yeah, I would definitely say there was some shared interest. I was in Scouts and a bunch of other programs and stuff like that. So like the idea of geocaching, the concept wasn't necessarily foreign. Definitely would talk to people and like talk to all my teachers in like grade school, and I'm sure they were just sick and tired of hearing about it, because it, like at that age, like you can explain it, but like you probably the whole picture probably wasn't there.
Right.
So the definition of how I've kind of conveyed it over the years has probably definitely changed, and it definitely depends on like the audience you're talking to as well. So yeah, I've definitely invited a handful of my friends, like if we're going to go on like a hike or anything like that. And yeah, some of them like you can see like the gears turning of like, okay, like this makes sense, and other ones it's like, this is a soggy sheet of paper in a moldy Tupperware container.
Yeah,
what's happening? So
yeah, don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that we found it.
Right.
So what about as you progressed and, once you get to the cool age, right? When you're like 13 to 16, everything you do has to be cool, right? We've all been through those phases. How did that go over with your friends? Because, a lot of kids and all of us go through it. Like you want to kind of like share your interest, but at the same time, you don't want to like put yourself out there too much because, it's one of those, everything revolves around, social acceptance and everything else. How did that go over for you through your teenage years?
Sure. It was kind of a case where it's like I would post on social and like I would post for my geocaching friends, but like all my normal friends would see it anyway. So it's like everyone kind of knew I did this thing, and I wouldn't like bring it up or like talk about it necessarily because like I knew in the back of my head that they don't care as much as I care, and like I have enough self-awareness to recognize that. So I'm not gonna sit there and bore whoever I'm talking to about this experience. But if the conversation comes up and they're like, oh, I took a trip to XYZ, I'd be like, oh, I've been there. I was geocaching. I visited this spot, this spot, like that sort of thing. So if I could sneak it into conversations, I would, but like I wouldn't make it a point to like force its way in,
Yeah.
Right.
I can see how that'd be weird. Like, start dating, you show up at your date's house, the dad's like, aren't you the kid that hides stuff in the woods?
Yeah.
We're not going to do this, you're dating my daughter thing. I don't know. That seems
right?
like, I don't know that I would advertise that as much. So
That's funny. Yeah, we've got some good comments. They mentioned, Gina mentioned, she says we got our little star this year. She's 8, so that's perfect. It's like eight's a good year to get that going. So Brad tells the story. He says they had a local 14-year-old that had no GPS, found 500 plus with just maps and hints, like you were talking about, Mark.
Wow.
But in the geocache community bought him a GPS, so that's pretty sweet to do that. So, I mean, that's feed that fire, man. Get that kid going again. So, so that's awesome. Yeah, happy Hodag. We're cachers. We're crazy by default. That's very true. So that kind of leads to this question that Jesse's kind of asking, which is there a way for everyone, regardless of their age, to somehow be able to sort of foster our great sport with younger, and I think broadly younger, because obviously I'm not going to, well, I may have exposure to certain age groups, but for example, Jesse's got a unique group because he's a teacher. My wife teaches, so she has sort of a unique experience, but like, I have different age grandkids, and then they have friends. So sometimes I'll take the grandkids with me. And so I'm sort of evangelizing. They know about geocaching, obviously, but then I'm kind of evangelizing, in a sense, their friends. So other than those kind of things, is there anything you can think of that would help sort of foster more participation from the 8 to 21-year-olds?
Yeah. So just being in the game for as long as I have, it's definitely taken a lot of different evolutions and twists and turns. And I think COVID was definitely a really defining point in the game. People were locked down. They were just looking for things to do. Geocaching started getting talked about a lot more. Not always for the better, but there was a huge influx of people that were downloading the app and going out and finding their first caches and hiding first caches. I would say, like, even still to this day, there's probably people out there that have found a bunch of caches and don't even know that a website exists, that they can go and like log their caches, because everything is done so natively on the app.
Right.
So I think that's a huge thing, and kind of breaking this generational curve. It used to be, like pen and paper, print out your caches and use like an old school GPS. And now it's just everything's on your phone, and it's at your fingertips for anywhere. I think social media is playing a huge part in exposure. There's a ton of great like TikTok accounts that are just very short, sweet, to the point. And then of course, like all the great, YouTubers and vloggers that we have that are kind of sharing what they're doing and sharing their experience. So I think that is helping kind of skew the age a little bit younger. I just think the problem with younger geocachers as a whole is like there's so much happening in life. And if you don't make it a priority and you don't like really, really enjoy it and enjoy it for what it is, you're going to put other things up in front of it. Life just gets busy and you can't prioritize everything. So unless you're really into this hobby, it's just going to slip. Just recently, like this past year, there was 2 guys that graduated WVU, and they were working on one of my puzzles, messaged me back and forth. I've never met these guys before, but I told them, the final is kind of hard to find, but I want to make sure you find it. So I'll hike out there with you. We get out there, we got talking, and like turns out like, oh, I know this person and we have these mutuals in common. And now we're like, super great friends. Went to one of their weddings, and we go out, we hang out every weekend, whether that's going geocaching or going, to play, sports or board games or like whatever it is. So, having a younger community is definitely a plus. But then you also have to balance the act of how do you introduce new people to the game with new caches that excite us, but are also accessible for the older players of the game. So, in my area, we have a lot of cachers that aren't able to climb trees, climb mountains, jump over rock cliffs and all the stupid things that us 21-year-olds do, and we kind of have to balance, how do we make the game fun for us, where it's not just all light poles and guardrails, but fun for everybody as a whole. Because if everyone's having fun, then the game can continue. But if the area gets so skewed, like if it's just puzzle caches and people don't like puzzle caches, then they're going to drop out. So it's definitely a balancing act, and it's very, very tricky thing to do. And you can see too, whenever you go to some of these bigger events, like Geo Woodstock, I feel is it's a little bit of an older crowd. It's people that just genuinely love the community and genuinely love the game, and they'll travel anywhere, they don't care. But then you go to an event like Moga, and it's these like Ironman type athletes that are there, like it's cutthroat, and you're there to compete, and that's the audience that attracts. So it's definitely a very wide range, and it's tough balancing kind of all the different elements of the game.
No, that's really good.
So you can't obviously speak for all 20 young 20-year-olds, right? I wouldn't try to get you to do that, but we're going to put you on record doing it anyway. But so if you were going to say, just in general, for around your age group, and obviously there's different types of everybody's into different things, but what do you think is the most exciting just part of caching for your age group? You mentioned trail hikes and tree climbs and jumping off cliffs, and I love that stuff, but admittedly it gets harder every year. So what is it, like your age group, what do you think really attracts them to it that you've seen? Maybe not everybody, but that you've seen.
I preach this every time I give like a geocaching seminar or like a presentation or a talk. I always preach, like, tell a story with your cache. If the only reason you're putting a cache in that location is so there's a cache in that location, maybe think twice about putting a cache there. If it's a cool location and that it's a cool experience outside of the cache, I think that's what really draws like a younger audience. If it's a cool hike, waterfall, tree climb, mountain climb, rock scramble, kind of anything that takes you out of your comfort zone, out of your element, just a little bit from the day to day. And then you kind of work backwards, and you can enjoy all caches whenever you start to like go on those really unique experiences, and you just have good overall experiences. Like there's good parking coordinates, there's a decent hint, there's a nice write-up. And it's just the whole like story arc from the start, whenever you find the cache on the map, to whenever you're signing the log. If all of that is coherent and all of that's a great experience, I think more people would be apt to play. And especially, younger cachers, they want to kind of go through that experience. And gadget caches are huge. I'm partial to puzzle caches. I know not everyone is, but I love a well thought out puzzle, or a well thought out like where I go, lab adventure, any like tour that kind of takes you through different areas. One really, really cool lab adventure I did was over in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, and it was sequential. And the general consensus about sequential adventure labs is that they're hit or miss, because a lot of them don't need to be sequential, but yet they are. But this one, it started at the John Brown house where like the raid was conceived, and then the second stage took you to the armory in downtown Harper's Ferry, where the siege on Harper's Ferry during the Civil War took place. And then the next stage is at the courthouse. The next stage is where he was hung. And then the next stage is at the cemetery. So it kind of took you through this cultural event that you've heard about all your life. It was really cool to like retrace the steps. There's a Where I Go that starts in DC, that follows the path of John Wilkes Booth as he fled south after assassinating Lincoln. So just these really cool, unique experiences that you can tie like your personal interests. Maybe you're like really into history, or you're really into like national parks, or you're really into like collecting the high points. Any like other interests combined with geocaching just creates a great experience that I think a lot more people would be drawn to. And unfortunately, we're at a point in the game now where a lot of the first experiences that you have are just a pill bottle under a lamp skirt. And while that's fun, after 1,000, you're just collecting your numbers. But if that's your first experience and that's all you think geocaching is, you're probably not going to stick with it.
Yeah.
That is exactly my story. First one was a pill bottle on her lamp skirt. The second one I found was 619 days later. So it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't take me by
It
storm.
almost killed you as far as like your whole career was almost over in one.
Yeah, I wasn't even gonna do it. Yeah,
one bad cache.
I do want to ask you about, because you mentioned this, but I want to ask you like about some of the more exciting ones that you've done, like either heavy terrain or whatever, because you're young, so you've done those exciting things. But I'll give you a second to think about that. But you brought up something I want to ask about, and you brought up Adventure Labs. So as a younger person, that's the oldest sentence I think I've said all week. But as a younger person, we have this debate a lot on the show, but we have a different perspective on it too. But do you have a preference, or do you have a preference when it comes to like old school caching, traditionals, multi, stuff like that, the stuff that you've seen from the very beginning, and like the explosion of Adventure Labs that are not actually finding anything? It's a digital story. Virtuals fall into that too, but like, do you separate those in your mind? Do you view them differently, or it's just all, what's your thoughts on it?
Yes, I definitely have a lot of thoughts. Maybe not all thoughts I won't necessarily want to put out on the internet. But,
right?
Yeah, keep it G-rated for us.
Family friendly.
Sure. I like to think that I am going to play the game within the set of rules that Groundspeak makes. And if Groundspeak is going to introduce this kind of virtual, spammy type of cache, I'm playing by the rules. They made the rules. I'm just following them. I try not to get too hung up on them. I just did a trip 2 weekends ago to New Jersey to do the I Heart New Jersey Adventure Lab. Cool. My new cache best day is now like 650 finds.
Dang, that's right.
Yeah, I'm not partial for Adventure Labs, but I'm definitely not against them. Some of them have been really, really cool, and I love the use cases, and people are doing great things with them. But when I'm answering multiple choice questions in an airport, I just sigh and shake my head every time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this isn't what they're used for, but it's just a growing problem that's out of control now, and that's the world we're living in. So I guess we're gonna play it.
I am in 100% agreement. As long as it's part of the game, I'm going to participate in it. Luckily they don't ask my opinion, to run the company. So that's good. That's good for them. But, if they said January 1st, Adventure Labs is a fun experiment, but it's over and they're only going back to megas. Okay. Now I'm not advocating for them to be gone. I'm just saying I wouldn't even care. Right. But as long as it's in the game, just like you, I'm still going to do it. I don't, I like the word spammy. That's pretty good, but
that's what it is. I mean,
it is. It's the same thing, It's a neat little experiment. And of course, somebody to the counterpoint would say, well, you don't have to do it. You're right. I don't have to do any of them. I'm going to do just like that lamppost. I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it if I know it's there and I'm sitting there in a parking lot, but I'm not going to seek it out. It's not the adventure that we all dream about, So, okay, you're pretty much right in line with what we were thinking too. So
from a young age, I taught myself how to code where I goes, and then I realized how much of a maintenance issue those are.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
But so like I really enjoy where I goes. I have maybe like 20 of them, and in my mind, Adventure Labs are just dumbed down where I goes.
Yeah.
Adventure Labs are designed for the people that can't code a where I go, but still want to kind of make this, sequential or storytelling type element. It's just another platform to do that. So I really can't complain too much, but I really wish people just learned how to use where I goes, and then we wouldn't have
really not that hard, is it? It's just not that hard.
It's not bad, no.
I can hear Jesse right now. He sent me a message right now. It's like, wait a minute, invite Mark back to do a Where I Go show. Okay,
that's right.
All right.
But again,
I'm okay with that too.
I only got into Where I Goes because they're almost obsolete in their technology. They're old. That's the only. It's just kind of a retro thing for me, and it causes people problems. But yeah, fully admit they should be better. But I love them because it's like programming in retro. I mean, it's old. It's fun to do. But yeah.
They can, and Jesse has converted me in many ways about where I goes, and that is, you could do some cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget, and I would get on a tangent here, but I'll never forget we were at going caching, and there's a spot, there's the regular park where they have all the main events, but we were off on a side portion of the parking lot, and the craziest picture, I wish I'd have like done a video of it. I took a photo of it, but we were all trying to do it was a play anywhere, and we were all trying to play through an imaginary maze to get to a final spot so we could get the information we needed to then go find the actual container. But we had to look like we were all crazy lunatics, like drunk, because we're all like, we're watching our phone real carefully and turn, go this direction for a while. And it was just incredible fun, but it was so crazy. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I don't want to get this to be into a tangent about where I goes, because I can talk about those forever, of course. But
we'll do that.
We'll do
that some night. Yeah.
To me, it fits in line with what you're talking about, the whole story. That's what I've always tried to sell people on. It's like from the cache page all the way through the story that you're telling them as they go through it, you can really lay out a much more well-rounded story of your cache and take them to a good location, from the very beginning to end. And to me, it seems like people would want that more. Just like you said, the full, there's more to the production value other than saying it's a geocache, go get it and throw in a pill bottle under a bush. I don't know how you attract people to the game that way. But when you're adding that complete story, you can really get pretty rich in your storytelling there. And it seems like that would draw more people other than the effort it takes to do it, But I could see how, especially if you're getting into the game, younger in life and moving through, you would expect more out of the game because there's so many other options out there now. There's so many other things to do that go into bare minimum because it's just not going to cut it for a lot of, especially younger people.
Yeah. And I think too, talking about like COVID caches and like Adventure Labs kind of spiraled out of that. I think a lot of newer cachers, not necessarily younger cachers, gravitate towards Adventure Labs because it's a very easy concept to understand and it mirrors a lot of other geolocation based games that we see, kind of like Pokemon Go, some of like the tourism type campaigns that are in different areas. So I think that's just a natural progression more so than where I goes. Definitely have a learning curve. And unfortunately, if people don't understand something, they're not going to take the time to understand it. So,
yeah. So go ahead, Gary.
I'll just say real fast. Well, one of the things that I think we need to all be aware of, though, is potential age of our potential age of the geocacher that might find our geocaches. That's something that, of course, is always in Jesse's mind. One of the things I recently had, and I don't know the age. I'm interested, but I can't find out right now. But there's a fairly new cacher in our town, and they went and found one of my hidden in plain sight caches. It's and they had some struggle with it, but I was really, I emailed back like you've done before. I messaged them many times and they finally found it. But now I'm sort of interested to find out like how are they and how their experience is going to be going forward, to find out, because like you said, there's certain things that I think appeal to all ages, but especially to the younger age caches. And so I've seen we've had on Kevin, he combated something else, but Kevin, Captain Math, he's talked about the experiences he had as a teacher, being able to sort of gear some of that towards some of the younger folks. And I think, like you said before, is that hidden in plain sight, I think, are interesting for all ages. I mean, until you're in there's something there that's to be found by somebody who's younger that keeps them interested. in the game, I think, is important.
So
and
did you go through? Yeah,
Gadget Caches is another example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
That's exactly where I was going to go. But Gadget Caches are a more recent phenomenon. I mean, they've been out for a long time
They are.
now, but the explosion of popularity of them is more recent. But
yeah.
Did you go through a phase when you were younger? My daughters went through this, where you were kind of excited by like the swag that was in the caches, like toys and trading toys, stuff like that. Because you started pretty young. Do you remember going through a phase where that was one of the most important parts of it, or at least was an interesting part? Did you like to find the things in caches?
I don't know if it was ever like the deciding factor for me, but I definitely was into the swag. I remember I collected like the rubber bouncy balls because they were different size, shapes, colors. Like they were just cool. Oh, they were cool.
Right.
So I would have like my neighbors when we would go geocaching, they would go geocaching, they would bring me back, and to the point where I had like a 5-gallon bucket just filled with bouncy balls. And then I grew up, to the point where like 13, 14, I was like, well, what am I going to do with all these? So then I just took that bucket and I put that out in the woods and I made that a cache.
Yeah,
so
made that a cache.
Perfect. Kind of full circle.
Perfect. Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges we saw, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but like my kids were they didn't need the swag for any reason. It was just the fact that they could find something and trade something, the whole process of that. And then travel bugs too. So that was a very similar phase too. They really wanted to go find travel bugs, coins. Sure. And there were still some coins out back then, but some travel bugs out. But I've definitely noticed over the years more. Now I lived in Colorado for most of this time, so I could go out of the mountains and find the big ones, but they were harder to get to for the kids.
Right.
But anywhere in town, it seemed like increasingly we were finding pill bottle size caches as opposed to ammo can size caches or buckets. So the amount of swag available or space that really shrunk down. And I've always kind of wondered, with my kids aren't young anymore, but the people that are out there caching now with kids and stuff, and it's been a while for you, is that shrinking of size and non-availability of swag, is that hurting getting some of the younger kids into the game? Because
I think
they don't want to see this little bitty thing like this. They want to see a cool bucket, right? Some of them.
Right. I think size in general is a problem. I mean, let's be honest, size matters. You can say it doesn't, but it does. People go out and like they'll hide nanos on lampposts and stuff like that. And like, yes, it's something to find. It is something that was hidden there intentionally for this game, but the thrill factor of it just isn't there. But on the flip side, I've done caches where it's these massive ammo cans and all that's in it is a log sheet. So like that doesn't have the same effect for me either. I don't really care what the swag is, but it is nice to flip through. Like I look for like cool stickers or patches or pins, like different things like that might be like different locations. Not that I'm going to trade anything, but it's nice to see kind of what different regions have for swag and what have come and gone over the years. So
yeah,
one of our group is I've said this before, but one of our Motley Cache and Crew folks, he goes with his grandkids a lot, and so in his mind he's always wanting to, so wherever we find something that is decent enough size, we open it up. As soon as we open up to grab the logbook, he's tossing stuff in it. Like he's just constantly trying to empty his pockets of, he is always prepared to put stuff in, because he, back when we first started years ago, I was like, he's like, I never want a child or a kid to get to this cache we're finding and there not be something. And I was like, that's a really good thought, because I mean, he really, and even to this day, I got a whole thing here in front of me of, he's big into coins. Apparently you can buy like a whole bag of like foreign coins, not worth anything. But to a kid, you're like, oh, what is this? It's like, some bizarre, here, I'll show you he's got me doing this stuff. So I got a whole thing of these foreign coins. Yeah. And so I put them in, I carry them with me in swag, but they're not, now I check them, but they're not worth anything. But to a kid, I mean, you just don't see these kind of, or smashed pennies. I've got smashed pennies in here too, but like when you find something that's just out of the ordinary, you're like, oh, cool. I mean, they're just, so he's really thinking ahead, and I think too often we don't think ahead. Not only just swag, but also something that always I think comes to mind too, in that kid-friendly attribute. Something we've talked about some on the show, and Jesse's mentioned before, is the fact that there are times when we need to reverse engineer in a sense and go, you know what? I need to make a kid-friendly cache because there's really not that many in my area that have that attribute, which if it doesn't have the attribute, doesn't necessarily mean it's not kid-friendly, but it may be that the kids weren't really thought about. And that's sort of sad.
So, yeah, and you really do need to think about where you're sending kids, right? If you're building caches that you want kids to go to, look around, not from adults' perspective, but look around from a younger person's perspective and think, because the kid may be arriving on a bicycle. We know a lot of young kids do a bicycle. We had somebody at our mega event recently. The kid was going to bicycle himself there. Luckily, his neighbor drove him because it had been too far. But
yeah,
we've had kids show up on bicycles and caches and stuff, and they don't have any adults around them at all. So you really do need to think through that. But before we run out of time, there's two big questions we want to make sure we get to. And we may have some more time too, but these are important. The one we've already kind of alluded to, so we didn't put you on the spot. But kind of the favorite cache, the question we ask everybody: what's been your favorite experience or most unique? And from the whether it's a harrowing terrain or just a cool experience overall. And then we'll get to the other question. I'll set you up for it, but we'll let you get to it afterwards. Is the future of geocaching? Those are the two big things we like to ask everybody. But those are such hard questions. We'll make sure we give you a second to think through. So, kind of, if you were going to tell somebody about geocaching today, and they want to hear your coolest story, what do you think would be your most unique experience, or just your favorite one that you tell people? And you may have told people tons of times, but what's probably that story you would tell?
See, that's a hard question because I'm at 11 and
we didn't bring you on for easy
times
stuff, Mark.
So there's a lot of great stories that I have. And like we were talking about earlier, it's all about the people, what we did, where we went, and the things that happened. So there's a ton of great stuff, but I think probably one of my most recent caches that really just stands out, and it's probably one that a lot of people here have done, but the Bridges and Arches of Central Park.
Oh yeah.
So whenever I was getting close to my 10,000 cache mark, it was end of February, but I was like, I want to go to New York. I've never been to New York, and I want to do this Bridges and Arches cache. So my brother and I, we flew into Newark, went through. We stayed in downtown Manhattan, did a bunch of caches down there, and then the next morning we woke up. It was 20 degrees. And I was like, well, okay, I'm not leaving without this cache. So we waited around in the hotel room for a few hours. We're like, it'll warm up.
Yeah.
And so we got on the subway. We went up, started in the north part of Central Park, and we're both runners. We're pretty active people. So we're like, oh, it's not that far. It's 3-4 hours maybe. Well, about hour 6, we were halfway through the park.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And it was blizzarding, absolute blizzarding.
No.
I think it got colder. We couldn't find a coffee shop to recollect our notes, nothing like that. So we're like, okay, just get back out there. We finished it, and then we had all our numbers. We sat down to do the math, and the math didn't math.
Oh, no.
I don't know where we went wrong.
Oh,
but it was we had 20 minutes before sunset.
No way.
I was gonna go to Central Park after dark to finish it, but didn't want to go to didn't want to make
right.
it. So we got the north to work, and when I was like, okay, well, looking at north to south in this park, it's probably somewhere around here. If we change this number to this, we can make the west this, and it was just a complete shot in the dark. And we're like, okay, well, let's go look. And we ended up finding the thing, and
wow.
I got to sign.
Incredible.
For my 10,000th cache, but it was just a great story, and that cache is just phenomenally laid out. Central Park in general is just an awesome place. One of the bridges, we literally saw a proposal happen.
Wow.
We saw several weddings, a bunch of dogs and horses and all the things around the park. So it was just awesome, and to get to share that with my brother was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
So
that's
just the whole combination of it all was just great. And I've seen people recently, I'm not gonna point fingers or, call out names, but like people like asking like, oh, is the final in this part of the park? Or it's like, just do the experience. Don't
do
teach
it.
yourself
Yeah.
cache because it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Go do it. I mean, we had the guy on this years ago, but we had the guy on who is the owner of that cache. And yeah, it's such a great experience. And, the excitement and the way you told that story, it's like, that's a great story for any age, but
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But, really it's something that, even teens can, sort of, that are, they don't want, like you said, they don't want to find a guardrail, but if you tell them the story about all that you have to go through, in New York, in New York City to get this cache, it's a great experience. And that's something that I think so many of us can sort of possibly relate to. We need to tell these stories, to people and share the experience and get all ages, to be excited about that.
So
I'll share another one really quick here. Whenever I was in Delaware 2 weeks ago, I was with one of my other buddies, college age friend. There was or maybe it was New Jersey. I don't know. There was a webcam that was on the beach.
There. Oh, okay.
And you had we walked out the boardwalk to get on the beach, and we got stopped, and they're like, you need a pass to get on the beach. Like, you have to pay. So we're like, okay, well, we drove all this way, so like, let's go to the little guard shack. And like, the whole joke this trip, we kept running into state parks that you needed to like pay to get into. So like,
yeah.
Are y'all familiar with the concept of Riz?
Yes.
I mean, middle school. I mean, yeah.
I teach middle school, so yeah.
So he would not talk to any of like the guard shack people or any of the ticket booth people. And so I would always be the person to go up and be like, okay, we're on a treasure hunt. It's really, really important. We just need to run out there, get a clue, and then we'll be on our way. It's like a race. We got to be really quick, and like, so you just gotta like hype up what we're doing.
Right.
And we were led on the beach, and it saved us like $30, and we got the webcam, and then we got off. And so
there you go. I love it.
Hey,
it's all about how you present the
situation. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if you can talk your way into stuff like that, that's perfect. You just added to your story right there.
Yeah.
That is a skill that pays dividends over and over. So,
sure,
we're going to run out of time, but we would be wrong if we didn't ask you, what do you think the future of geocaching looks like?
I think with anything, we've seen a lot of surges of geocaching, ebbs and flows. We've seen the rise of challenge caches, the fall of challenge caches, and like the resurgence of challenge caches. Where I'm at over near Virginia actually banned geocaches in Department of Transportation areas. So signs, guardrails, rest stops, all those sort of things. So I think a lot of the rules and stuff that were put in place early, now people are kind of figuring out what geocaching is starting to become a little bit more mainstream. People are seeing the benefits of it, especially from a touristic standpoint. I know the national parks are starting to ease up a lot of their rules about putting caches in parks and earth cache submissions and different things like that. So it's definitely promising to see geocaching show up as kind of like a little bit more forefront in like pop culture. It's showing up in TV shows more often. It's showing up in movies. So I think that's a very hopeful sign. I am optimistic that Groundspeak will continue to, proactively promote these partnerships, especially with like geo tours and the different things that they're doing in the community. I think would be great. If we can just get, I think the fan base of geocaching and the community that play it, if we can be a little bit more open to allowing new players to come in and a little bit more mindful, like you said, with like the hiding caches specifically for kids, and then maybe hiding, adventure labs a certain way, or teaching people more to do where I goes. I think if we all just work together a little bit more as a community, we can foster this game and it can live on a lot longer. And hopefully more laws and regulations will be lifted, and maybe Groundspeak will be a little bit more forgiving with what they allow cashers to do, just so everyone can have a great experience, and the players that really want to propel this game forward can have the ability and the options and the resources available to kind of introduce the next generation of cachers.
I love that. Is there anything like the VR things they played, or the AR things they played with for a little while, or anything you'd like to see in the future of like great. Something added to the game? And you don't have to figure out the technical aspects of it, right? Just something that you think would be a cool possibility in the future.
Okay, so I've always thought challenge caches should be their own attribute, or not own attribute, but own icon, and they would only appear whenever you qualify for the challenge, or like maybe they'd be grayed out, kind of like a disabled cache is,
right?
And then when you can see what the requirement is, but you can't see any of the details. And then whenever you do finally qualify for it, it like lights up on your map, or like something a little bit cooler happens. So there's more of an incentive to work towards these. I was at an event a few weeks ago, and someone mentioned having like an annual like cache. How'd they frame it? Like a cache course, like an online course where cache hiders could go through like every year and like renew like a certificate. And if you renewed the certificate, like the reviewer might be a little bit more lenient with what you're allowed to do. I know I've been in some instances where it's like I have a really cool idea for a cache, but it's like in this gray area of like, how do you interpret these rules? And like I interpret it one way, my reviewer interprets it another way. And like ultimately they know a lot more context to the rules than I do. But I just feel like there's some really neat opportunities out there, especially, cool locations and different things that can be done to tell these stories in a unique way that might be a little bit outside of the realm of what geocaching currently is. But if we have innovators in the game, in the space, that are willing to put in the work and create these really awesome caches, they can be like staples in the community, not widely spread here. It's a free for all. But, if these select few cachers have access to do these more experimental types of caches, they could become more mainstream. So I think that would be an interesting idea to kind of explore and, see what is on the horizon there.
Like a master's level certificate of, oh man, I'd be all over that, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would ever work, but it sounds awesome. I like it.
Yeah, it's tough juggling, new cachers that want to hide caches compared to people that have hidden hundreds caches. We all kind of have to play by the same rules, and like that makes sense, and it's for the integrity of the game. And Groundspeak doesn't want to do anything that's going to get the game shut down or any new laws made that we don't want. So like it makes sense, but every now and then I come up with a cache idea where it's like I just wish maybe could let something happen, but maybe in the future we'll see.
No, I love that idea. Cool. There's there's ways to kind of, like you said, kind of see it through Project GC. You can kind of filter yourself through, but like you said, there's no way they're not fully integrated, and that'd be cool if the two of them, if Groundspeak and Project GC would completely get together, like fully, then they could possibly, like you said, Mark, they could sort of integrate that into the map, like you said, where you're like, oh, why is this one grayed out? And you look at it and you're like, oh, this is interesting. I never thought about that. So I love that idea. It's the same
concept as whenever you first download the app and it doesn't show you any caches above a difficulty or terrain 2. I see it kind of like that way, where it's like you find one cache and then like you get access to new caches and new opportunities and new things. There's different ways. I don't know. Something to spice it up a little bit, but obviously geocaching is such a community focused game that it's up to us to put out the caches, put out the experiences, and you can't police that. You have to all play by the same rules and that sort of thing. So
oh yeah, for sure.
Cool.
I like it. Any because we got to give away something still. Anything we haven't touched on that you think we should have hit? I know we get off on tangents a lot, so.
No, I mean, I think everything that we've talked about is great. I think the future of geocaching is really promising, especially as I've done a lot of work with tourism bureaus and like even from the university. We've talked about using geocaching to recruit for college visits and kind of showcase the campus and different things. So there's a lot of use case applications, and I'm glad to see that it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. So it's exciting to see what else is going to happen, where the future is.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, we're thrilled you got to be with us tonight, Mark. I'm glad everything worked out timing wise, and I'm hoping and I feel good about our future with geocaching, the sport of geocaching. Jesse, I think we've got it's going to be in good hands when we're old and feeble, and we can turn this whole game over to Mark and crew. So
I'm never giving up. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's good. All right, so we are going to give something away. So I'm going to bring up tonight was hashtag Mark. It was capitalized at one point. I don't know how I got it down to that, but because Mark is his name, although Mark does put his mark on a cache, but that's different. So yeah, if you haven't done that yet, you'll need to do a hashtag Mark, either capital or not. It takes it either direction, so it'll accept it. But we're about to punch the button and see where it lands and see who's won. I've got several coins that are possible. I will show them really quickly once I'll tell you real quick. I got guitars. I still got a red guitar. I've got some of our old coins back in the day, our Geocache Talk Network ones. I still have a few buffalo or bison, depending how you want to say it. But I've got the copper and I have the silver. So I got a few of those. And all those are available.
Always a path tag too, right?
Oh yeah, you automatically get the path tag. Yeah, I've got the deep dive path tag. Yeah, that's an automatic on that one. So, all right. Well, here we go. Punching the button. Let's see who wins. So here we go. Round and round it goes. I just push the button. I don't pick who wins. As you notice, I just push one button. So there we go. Roy won last week. So the winner tonight is. There you go. Nope, not rigged. There's Brad. Okay. Brad, you're the winner, my friend. Yep, round and round she goes. So, Brad, get in touch with me, and I think I need to go double check. I think that's his second win. Let me double check. We're only letting you do 2 wins. So, anyway, I will double check that.
Who cares? Rules are made to be broken.
Yeah, who cares?
I wish my reviewer stuff felt the same way sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
But can you imagine if they didn't have reviewers? It would be.
It'd be chaos. It'd be
Oh my gosh, it'd be terrible.
It'd be crazy. Again, thanks everybody. Thank you, Mark, for being on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of fun, absolutely. And yeah, we got to do a Where I Go show one day and talk about how to do it. I know some people are struggling, so. Jesse,
I just tell people Where I Goes are only for advanced cachers. If you can't do it, you'll get there one day.
You'll get there one day.
Well, people complain about like, oh, my phone doesn't run them or the app doesn't work, and I'm like, no, the person probably didn't code it right.
Exactly.
The issue's probably there and not you, but just stick with it. I promise it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Agreed.
All right, that's it. And we'll see you guys. Sunday we have a geocache talk, and we're going to talk. We're going to jump onto the beach, get your suntan lotion out, your beach umbrella, if people still do that kind of thing, and we're going to talk about GeoCoin Fest on Sunday. So we'll see y'all then. So not that guy. He is on the road. You'll be on the you actually literally
I'll be in the ocean that day, but yeah. So
you'll be in the ocean. Well,
picking up a couple new countries this week. So
on the ocean. That's awesome. So, all right. Good night, everybody.